One of the hardest questions you are ever going to ask yourself is that if you should stay or if you should leave. And in this whole process, the bigger picture is understanding that love is never enough. Love shouldn't be the only reason that you actually decide to stay back in a relationship. There's one thing that you need to truly understand: if this relationship is making both people involved more healthier, or if it's slowly damaging and destroying the self worth confidence of the people involved in it. And most people are walking today with the belief system that if I love someone, I should never leave them and I should never be able to walk away from them. But that's a recipe for disaster. A true healthy relationship actually requires three pillars in it: one is love, one is respect, and one is trust. What is a toxic relationship? In a toxic relationship, two people can actually love each other deeply, choose each other, and commit to each other. And there might not be trust and respect in that relationship. And anytime there is no respect or trust in the relationship, you start degrading the other person in the relationship and start putting them down. And in the lack of trust, you start questioning their motive and you're constantly questioning their intentions in the relationship. Even if love is present and trust and respect are absent from the relationship, a relationship cannot truly survive. And there are many relationships where you can truly stay and work things out with the other person. But on the flip side, there are also relationships where the best thing for yourself, your self worth, is actually to walk away and heal from that relationship altogether. So, how do you know the difference? You stay in a relationship if the problem is the issue and not the other person. Even in a healthy relationship, there's going to be conflicts, there's going to be disagreements, there's going to be one person hurting the other person. But what's really important in a healthy dynamic is taking accountability after the conflict, repairing the conflict. And after you come out of the conflict, does your understanding increase or is the damage more to the relationship? Because if the relationship is constantly getting damaged after each and every conflict, and if your trust in that person is going away after every conflict, then there's going to be resentment held within you. When there is resentment held inside you, you're going to bring up the things that went wrong in the past conflict and drag it into the present moment, where you're going to be unable to let go of the past truly. And you can have conflicts, you can have fights, and you can also be in a relationship with someone who's willing to do the work, take accountability, and improve themselves. Because what happens in a relationship is two people are mirroring each other's deepest core wounds in this whole process. There is some wound that's being awakened in person A, and there's another wound that's actually being awakened in person B. If both people can look within themselves and see what's actually being triggered within themselves, take radical responsibility to work on the belief systems and the trauma that's being triggered, and come back together, you can create a harmonious relationship. Even if one person is doing the work, the other person is not doing the work, there is going to be imbalance in the relationship. On the flip side, if both people are not doing the work and if both people resort to blaming each other for each other's misery, the relationship is definitely doomed. And sometimes these conflicts can also come due to fundamental difference in your core values as well. And if there is a difference in the core value, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to be able to bridge the gap, because somewhere there has to be a limit between abandoning yourself for the other person and also compromise as well. Every healthy relationship requires compromise. A relationship cannot work without you sacrificing some parts of yourself and compromising some parts. But you also get to decide, okay, how much am I willing to compromise and how much of myself am I willing to sacrifice? If you are someone who's constantly changing yourself to fit into the other person's narrative or fit into the picture because you don't want this other person to feel bad about themselves or the relationship, you can also potentially enter a territory where you start abandoning yourself. And this is where two people need to be willing to reflect and grow within themselves, provided there is also core value alignment between the two of you. You can also stay in the relationship if you feel emotionally safe. The moment you start feeling emotionally unsafe in the relationship, there can be toxicity entering the relationship. Because if you feel emotionally unsafe in the relationship, you enter a space where you are not able to communicate what you're feeling openly and honestly to this person in front of you, because there is no baseline level of safety in the relationship. As long as there's no safety in the relationship, communication cannot happen in a healthy way. And emotional safety also looks as if you are not living in fear of your partner. You are not scared to voice out your opinion. You are not scared to hurt this other person. You are not scared to speak your truth. But if you start walking on eggshells where you're truly scared to express yourself because you don't know what's going to trigger this other person, the relationship has already entered the territory of being emotionally unsafe. Once it enters that territory, it's very hard to reverse that dynamic back again, because the person in front has to create environment for the other person to actually feel more emotionally safe. You can also walk away if disrespect enters the relationship, if they're constantly trying to put you down, humiliate you when they are hurt. Hurt is a normal thing that happens even in a healthy relationship. But the more important thing is, how do you communicate the fact that you are hurt? Do you put this other person down, or do you make them feel bad about themselves for hurting you? Or are you able to own up to your pain and communicate to the other person saying that, hey, I am feeling hurt because of XYZ? There's two ways of communicating. Either you put and insult the other person down because you feel insecure, because you feel hurt about something, or you actually communicate to this person saying that I feel hurt. And for you to communicate to someone, I feel hurt, it requires extreme amount of vulnerability. And only people who are strong can be vulnerable. But it's always the weak ones who resort to the method of insulting and attacking the other person's character. You can also walk away when you enter a space where you are constantly abandoning yourself to preserve the relationship, and also when you are entering a space where you're trying to be endlessly understanding about these persons' flaws, their traumas, etc., etc. You don't need to lose yourself, your individuality, to maintain a relationship. You don't need to ignore your intuition to actually maintain a connection as well. And you need to truly ask yourself this question: am I thriving in this relationship? Am I becoming more of myself? Am I growing in this relationship? Or is my worth diminishing constantly? Or am I shrinking myself to make sure this relationship is lasting? And definitely walk away from the relationship when abuse enters the relationship. If there's any form of name calling, if there's any form of intimidation, or if there's any form of physical abuse, pack your bags and leave the show. Because even if you love this person, you cannot justify repeated harm from this person. You cannot justify this person putting you down and constantly harming you. And abuse is not just physical. Abuse also shows up in the way where you are trying to control this other person. You're trying to use fear to make this other person stay, where there is also a form of emotional and mental abuse involved in the relationship. There could be love, but there could also be abuse, and no amount of love can make up for the psychological damage abuse actually does to you. So instead of asking, do they love me? You also need to learn to ask yourself the question: is this relationship contributing to my life? Am I loving myself more in the presence of this other person? And also, is this relationship producing peace, trust, respect in my life and helping me grow into a better person? Because, in all honesty, love is a feeling, but relationships are built on behavior. Love can be unconditional, but relationships are conditional. You need to have certain boundaries for yourself when you are in a relationship as well. And if both of you are growing, even if you have conflicts between the two of you, if both of you are becoming emotionally more healthy, then stay and fight for the relationship and don't let go of something that's extremely good. But if you find yourself in positions where you're shrinking yourself to please someone else, you can walk away from this relationship. Because, in all honesty, love and relationship should challenge you to grow, but it doesn't require you to abandon yourself consistently and erase yourself in this whole process. And if you are someone who's struggling with your own self worth, your confidence, struggling with abandonment issues, anxiety, your attachment as well, you can reach out to me and apply to work with me. I'll go through your application and I will reach out to you to discuss the next steps with you. You can also find the link to the application in the description box below. I hope this episode was helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.